A newly released Magellan Strategies poll indicates Democratic gubernatorial candidate Cary Kennedy is edging closer to Jared Polis. The results show Polis leading with 27% and Kennedy trailing with 23%, while Mike Johnston came in with 8% and Donna Lynn trailing with 5%. David, this is a poll in March. The primary ballot does not get released until the middle of June. The final election day is June 26th. So there's a long way between now and the finish line. What impact does this poll make?
I think it's a big one. As you say, we've got 3 months to go. And so you look at statewide races that have happened in Colorado history or in other states. There are many, many, many where somebody who was 20 points or more down in the polls 3 months before the primary went on to win. So it's way too soon to start drafting the election day headlines. And obviously Mike Johnston, who's in the near the bottom of the race right now, he's going to have a $1 million spending at least by Michael Bloomberg on his behalf, so presumably that'll help some. But you got to say the impact now, it's huge, and it's great news for Cary Kennedy. In terms of motivating her volunteers for the people who don't want Polis, she's the one to coalesce around for whatever reason people have for that. And not only will it help her get more volunteers, make her volunteers more enthusiastic, more hardworking, it'll also help with increasing campaign contributions and add to her credibility. Obviously, it's good for Polis to be the front runner, but you'd want him as the front runner to have a little more padding in the lead. Remember, there's also 1/3 of the votes are still undecided, so there's lots and lots that can happen before the primary.
Penn, with the different headlines we've seen from this race, Polis has made some, Kennedy's made some, and Johnson has made some, both with fundraising and turning in signatures. Were you surprised to not see more of a three-way race in this particular poll?
No, I wasn't. At this stage in the campaign, the poll is really a name ID poll. And when you consider, and when you look at the Democratic primary field, of the 4 candidates, 3 have run for public office before, and Donna Lynn, who's the lieutenant governor, was appointed, so she's never run for office before. So it's not surprising that the name ID of the 3 who have run for office before is higher. The big winner is undecided, where 36% of the people ended up. And frankly, that's where the prize is. That's where everybody's trying to get, because that's the margin you need to win. It is too soon. Part of what's remarkable is there's not been a lot of coverage, media coverage about any of the gubernatorial campaigns, really, which is sort of a function of us being a half newspaper town as opposed to a 2 newspaper town, which we were for so many years. So if you're a candidate, obviously any good news you want to talk about, but you can't get too high, nor can you get too low at this stage in the process, because the polling's early, it's name ID, and if you're Donna Lynn, for instance, or Noel Ginsburg, who has since dropped out, and you weren't going through the caucus process, you didn't have a lot of name ID with the activists who were involved anyway, because you're going through the petition. Johnston's got an interesting decision to make now, because he's not going to hit 10% threshold, and so he's going to have to bow out of the caucus assembly process formally so that his petitions can keep him on the ballot. Because if he stays in both and doesn't hit 10%, it doesn't matter what the petitions do, he's off the ballot. So he's going to have to make an announcement pretty soon, and that's going to, I think, signal some weakness, Mike Bloomberg's $1 million in support notwithstanding.
That's a great point you brought up. I did not know that you have to. I know there were a couple candidates going to both sides. I didn't realize that particular qualification. John, we've been talking about the headlines that Kennedy and Polis and Johnson have made. Really, the only headline we've seen from Donna Lynn is the fact that she's not making any headlines. So how long can she see polls like this and not any other positive headlines that keep some sort of momentum or hope to do well in the primary?
I don't think she has any momentum now, so I don't know that she can keep it going necessarily. I mean, David was right about this is so early that, this is a time like when back with the mayoral race when we had Norm Early going against Bigfoot, Wellington Webb, I'm sorry. We saw that he had a 43-3% lead, and then all of a sudden one comment on DIA being DOA, all of a sudden the poll flipped like that, and Norm Early was never remembered after that. But the 10% threshold is a very good idea. What's going to hurt Cary Kennedy, I think, is the fact that she was CFO for the city under under Hancock, when in fact this hush money was paid off to the detective that is involved in this whole
But
process.
they didn't have to tell the CFO about that payment, right?
I'm sorry?
They didn't have to tell the CFO. Wasn't there some
But
legal
if you're
thing?
the,
you don't
if
have to
you're
go
the
to it?
CFO, shouldn't you know where money is going? Shouldn't you know that there's a slush fund in the mayor's office?
But if
Shouldn't
they
you know
can-
they have a pot of money that they use to make these payoffs to citizens who sue the city?
But if you can legally be gone around, it's kind of hard to say I should have known something, but I can be legally.
I would want to be,
ignored.
if I was a CFO of a company, I'd want to know where the money is going.
Sure, I can understand that point. Patty, when you see the headlines from these polls, does anybody have a real big reason to celebrate?
I think Cary Kennedy does, and I don't think we were the ones who wrote the story that she didn't know about the payment, but that's because there is this fund and they don't have to go through the CFO. That's not going to stick to her. It's interesting that Cary Kennedy has done as well as she has, and that Mike Johnson, who came out first, who's had a lot of money, hasn't done very well at all. He's a really good speaker, and maybe as people start hearing him, they will, when there are more debates, there are more public appearances, maybe he will start catching up, because with those 36% undecided can still make a big difference. But I think we have to remember, headlines don't matter anymore because no one's reading daily papers, even if there are daily papers. So you've got social media, you have other ways to get the word out. And think about Bernie Sanders, think about the surprises that come if people have a really good ground game. And I think in the next few weeks we'll see that.